Today, we're going to deconstruct a truly pivotal campaign from the Spanish Civil War, the Nationalist advance from Badajoz to Toledo in the late summer of 1936. Our focus is going to be squarely on the operational art and, crucially, the command decisions that really shaped this entire stage of the war. Now, it's important to state right up front that the foundation for this analysis is the incredibly detailed operational study by Colonel F.J. Victor Rodrigo. So, for our purposes here, we're going to adhere strictly to that source material to really get inside the tactical and strategic calculations of the time. So, here's how we're going to break this down. We'll proceed in 5 phases. We'll start with the strategic situation right after Badajoz fell. Then we'll move to the fight for Talavera, analyze that central command dilemma, detail the assault on the Alcázar, and then wrap up by assessing the consequences. All right, let's dive right in. The fall of Badajoz was a huge deal. It marked the successful link-up of the Nationalist northern and southern armies, a major strategic win. But, as is so often the case in warfare, this success immediately created a new and very pressing vulnerability. You see, the advance of Yagüe's columns was incredibly fast. They were just gobbling up ground, but in doing so, they sacrificed security. This created this long, exposed eastern flank that you can see right here on the map. It's a classic military problem, isn't it? They were gaining space, but they were losing time and security. And with Madrid as the ultimate prize, time was absolutely everything. So, let's put ourselves in the commander's shoes for a moment. You look at your situation. The left flank is solid, anchored securely against the Portuguese border. No worries there. But the right flank, that's another story. It's weak, it's wide open, and it's running perpendicular to your line of advance. The terrain isn't helping either. Your own forces? Highly professional, very mobile, but there just aren't that many of them. So your flank security is this patchwork quilt of isolated posts and a few mobile units. It's a significant, calculated risk. So even with this nagging problem of an exposed flank, the advance had to continue. The next logical objective was Talavera de la Reina, a really key position on the road to Madrid. Taking it was going to be a major test of both sides' military capabilities. Now, on the Republican side, the situation was, frankly, a mess. Colonel Franco had enough men on paper, but his command was in total disarray and morale had hit rock bottom. His units were prone to just breaking and running. There are reports describing a shameful flight that wasn't even caused by enemy pressure, but by a complete and utter lack of military spirit. And here you see the stark contrast in operational competence. Instead of a costly frontal assault, Asensio's column conducted this wide, sweeping envelopment to the north. The maneuver worked perfectly. It completely unhinged the Republican defensive line, which just collapsed. By 2:30 in the afternoon, Talavera had fallen. And get this, Asensio's column suffered only 31 casualties. An absolutely stunning result. The fall of Talavera sent shockwaves through the Republican government. From a military perspective, it really did seem like the path to the capital was now wide open. The crisis was so severe, it brought down the General government. Largo Caballero took over, and he immediately understood he had to build a new, disciplined army from scratch, and fast. And this brings us right to the heart of our analysis today. With the road to Madrid seemingly clear, the Nationalist High Command was staring at a choice, a pivotal decision that would go on to shape the entire course of the war.
The question was simple, but the answer would change everything. Should they exploit their momentum and drive straight for the capital, or should they divert a significant portion of their best forces to go relieve the besieged Nationalist garrison in the Alcázar of Toledo? That was the dilemma.
Now here's what's absolutely fascinating. For all the strategic debate, the decision had, in effect, already been made a month earlier. On August 21st, Franco told Mullah what he was going to do. For him, liberating the Alcázar wasn't just another tactical objective. It was a moral and spiritual imperative. In a war that was being framed as a crusade, rescuing these symbols of resistance was seen as absolutely vital to energize his own side and demoralize the enemy. Okay, so let's set aside the moral dimension for a second and look at the cold, hard military calculus. What did the Toledo solution offer? Well, on the one hand, there were clear advantages. It would finally anchor that vulnerable right flank on the Tagus River. It would improve logistics. It would give them more room to maneuver for a future assault on Madrid. But the disadvantage was immense, and it was obvious: the loss of critical, irreplaceable time. So, with the decision made, the focus shifts. The strategic debate is over. Now it's all about tactical execution. The operation to relieve the Alcázar was now the main effort. And right away, there's a significant commands change. On September 21st, General Varela takes over from Lieutenant Colonel Yagüe. The sources suggest this happened because Yagüe fundamentally disagreed with diverting to Toledo. So this wasn't just a routine rotation, it was a direct consequence of strategic dissent. Varela immediately reorganizes the forces into the vanguard column group, with the columns of Asensio and Barón tasked as the main assault force. The formal order issued from Cáceres on September 24th is precise, almost clinical. It lays out a very clear three-phase operation. Phase 1, seize the line of the Guadarrama River. Phase 2, as you can see here, establish a base of departure at Badajoz, just north of the city. And Phase 3, the final assault on Toledo itself. The expected time to complete this entire maneuver, just 3 days. And, for the most part, the first two phases went off without a hitch. The columns crossed the Guadarrama against pretty limited resistance, and they quickly secured the town of Badajoz. With that key position taken, the final line of departure for the main attack was now set, exactly as the operational order had stipulated.
The climax arrived on the evening of September 27th. After some very heavy street fighting through the northern parts of the city, elements of the 1st Tabor of Tetuan finally fought their way to the fortress. A lieutenant made the first contact with the defenders inside. After 70 long, grueling days, the siege was finally broken. The next couple of days were all about consolidation. Varela officially entered the Alcázar on the 28th. Franco himself arrived the next day on the 29th. By September 30th, the last pockets of Republican resistance inside Toledo had been eliminated. The operation was complete.
The relief of the Alcázar was, without a doubt, a tactical success and an enormous propaganda victory. But now we have to turn to the other side of the ledger and analyze its strategic cost, especially when it comes to that one resource you can never get back, time. Just consider the initial pace of the operation. From the start of the advance in Seville, all the way to the capture of Talavera, the columns covered 450 kilometers in about a month. By any standard, that is a lightning campaign. Now, look at the stark contrast. The next leg of the journey, just 43 kilometers from Talavera to Maqueda, the staging area for the next phase, took 18 days. Now, yes, Republican resistance was stiffening, but the diversion of effort and attention to Toledo was a decisive factor in this dramatic loss of momentum. So, when you look at the final scorecard for the Battle of Toledo, the tactical results are unambiguous. It was a decisive nationalist victory. Republican forces suffered over 600 dead and lost a significant amount of material. For the Nationalists, it was an unparalleled propaganda coup that really galvanized their supporters. And for the Republic, it was a profound tactical and moral defeat. And this brings us to our final critical question. The time that was lost in the diversion to Toledo gave the Republic crucial weeks to organize Madrid's defense. It gave them time to receive Soviet aid and for the international brigades to begin to form. And this leaves us to ponder that great what-if of the Spanish Civil War. Did the symbolic moral victory at the Alcázar come at the strategic cost of a swift, decisive victory in the war itself? That remains a central and fascinating debate for military historians.